Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, on Masechtas Chagigah daf Chav Gimel, we are going to begin on the bottom of Chav Beis Amud Beis, quoting the words of the Mishnah: "Hanoise es hamedras, noise es truma of ulos hakodesh." So the Mishnah told us on Chav Amud Beis that one could carry the clothes of the zav together with truma, but not when it comes to kodesh. Says Rashi on the Mishnah, "B'chavius she'enu noige ba'avira." If you, let's say you have it in a kli cheres in which it's not touching the air of that vessel, so therefore, even though you have the clothes of a zav, it's not going to contaminate the truma. However, we're still concerned when it comes to kodesh. We don't want you to do this. So let's continue in the Gemara. So kodesh, my time alo. If it's in a kli cheres, l'chayra, there's not an issue. So why do we not allow by kodesh? The answer is mishum maisa shahaya. The reason is because of a issue that could come about, or it did come about, a masa shahaya, which is going to be question 7. Eiz a chaymer b'kodesh mibetruma gozru by mishum masa shahaya. So this is the answer. We're going to see what the story is in a second. Let's see how he writes it. Da noises a meneris and a noises a kodesh. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel. Masav echad. Here's a little story. A person was carrying a barrel of wine, which was kodesh, and he was carrying it memakoim lemakoim. So he was carrying it from one place to the next, and it was kodesh wine. As we continue Chav Gimel with Aleph, v'nifsaka ritzua shel sandalai, and his strap on his shoe fell off. And Rashi says, Medras hazav haisa, and he was a zav, and this was considered to be the tumas medras, but natal biyada, and he was holding the strap in his hand, says Rashi, and he ended up falling within the airspace, because when it comes to a kli cheres, it's not matam on the outside, but it's matam on the inside, even ba'avir. So this is what happened. But natal, he took the strap, v'nicha al pi chavius, he put it by the barrel, v'naful avir, and it fell into the airspace of a chavius v'nitmas. So because of this Masa Shahaya, we're concerned, and therefore we say that a person is not allowed to do so because of this. But at that moment, people say that's it. Even though you can maybe say that it shouldn't be an issue really in general when it comes to Truma, it's not really an issue with Kodesh, but because it happened by Kodesh, we say the same thing. Okay, so the Gemara says, okay, but ihaki trumanami, maybe we should forbid truma as well, because after all, this problem could also happen there too. He only asked the Yarden River, a boat, and just like the story happened. So mahi. What is this Maisa Shahaya that happened that he assered only that exact situation but nothing else? Desanya. A person is not allowed to lift up the mechatas and the ephar of the chatas for the paraduma, and to bring them across the Yarden on a boat. You shouldn't have it on one side. And throw it to the other side. You shouldn't allow it to float across the waters. Do not ride it over an animal, or your friend, unless literally his feet are touching the ground. In other words, he's not allowed to be connected to the water. You could go cross a bridge. That much we allow. We're not concerned. However, when it comes to going over rivers, we're strict when it comes to the Yarden in any river. So we're only concerned if it's going over the Yarden on a boat, not any of these other things. Says Rashi, Abul b'Yarden v'lo b'shar naharos, Abul mashitin al panav b'oimed b'tzeh zeh b'sad zeh v'yisrakim b'sad acher. He allows you to do all these other things because the whole issue, as we're going to see in a second, only happened b'sfina, with a boat, and a Yarden. So we're only going to ask those things, or be machmer by those things. So Rabbi Yehuda Marav, so this person was transporting these very important items on a boat in the Yarden. And it turned out there was a kazais of a mace, which is enough to make everything tameh, that was stuck onto the karka, like the earth or the side of the boat, which made everything tameh. It made the mechatas tameh, the efrachatas. So again, even though you could maybe logically think, so once we made this gazer, we should aser everything. No, we only aser the yard in the svina. So too, when it comes to this case, even though the truth is maybe you should aser the trum as well, we only aser the kaidish because the issue with the case of the strap of the shoe that broke off was davka when it came to kaidish, not by truma. Iboyhu, fact Gemara. Sandal tame, sandal tahar mahu. What does that mean? So look at Rashi. Hadi amr de geyzerlav shal yisa kaidish imoi. The whole issue of kaidish, of not allowing this person to transfer this kaidish, sandal tahar mai. Mi gazer sandal tahar atu tame olo. Is it only if the sandal is tame, and again, because it was a medras hazav, but maybe when it comes to sandal tahar, we're not strict. For that matter, chavius betucha, chavius tatuma mahu. If the top of the barrel was open or versus it completely sealed. So if it's completely sealed, we're not concerned, even if, let's say, the shoelace was tame, it couldn't possibly get into the avir because the barrel is sealed. Avar b'nasumahu. What if he actually did carry it and he violated this? Do we say that everything is tameh, or do we say the reality is nothing happened, so it should remain tahar, even though we shouldn't have done it that way? So Rabbi Loi Omer im avar v'nasa tameh. Rabbi Zera Omer avar v'nasa tahar. If the kaidish was done in this way, which he shouldn't have done, so it's a machlokas whether it's tameh or tahar. Okay. Weiter. Kalim hanigmorim b'tahar b'chulu. So the next mentioning of our Mishnah, let's go back to Chaf Amud Beis. Another distinction between Truma and Hektish has to do with a when it comes to Kalim Hanigmarim. They were just completed, and they're completed with purification. Srich and Tvil Kaidish. You still need to immerse them. However, not by Truma. So again, what was the whole issue? So we saw in the Rashi over there, the issue possibly that we may be zahir that maybe, let's say, the spittle of an amaretz spit on the kli, and it was still wet when the kli was completed. So therefore, we're strict when it comes to kaidish, but not when it comes to truma. Kalim and igmar betahara. So the Gemara says like this: the gamrinu man, exactly who completed this kli? Was it an amaretz or a talmud chacham? Elim the gamrinu chaver, was it a chaver, a scholar, someone who's very, very careful to make sure everything's tahar? Solomel hutvila. Why would you need to be taivaled afterwards? It must be el the gamrinu amaretz. So if that's the case, nagrinim betahara karlahu. So what do you mean it was completed with purification? If it was an amaretz, we don't say that it was nigmar betahara. The amaretz is the one that did it. So Amarav Barshil, Amarav Masna Shmuel, Loyalam de Garminu Chaver. Really, we have to say it was completed by a chaver. That's why it said it was completed but tahara. However, so what's the issue then? Why do you have to be tayvlet? Because we're concerned of the saliva of an amaretz that may have fallen upon this clay. Amos. When exactly did this saliva potentially fall on the clay? If, let's say, the amaretz spit on this kli before it was completed, so halal manahu, it's not a kli, so until it becomes a kli, his spittle doesn't really do anything. Ella basar de gamre. It's only after the kli already became completed. So if that's when it was, mizer zahar bahu, the chaver, he'd be very careful and he wouldn't allow this amaretz spittle to go on it. He's not going to allow him to go anywhere near it. So how is this a practical situation? Now maybe again he spit on it before it was complete, so it's not a mana. However, the problem is that it was still moist, and therefore when it got completed, then it already became makabel tuma, and therefore that's why you have to be toivelet. Now tvila in, all we require when it comes to this kli is to immerse it. Erev shemesh lo, we're not going to require you to have to do any more than that. We're not going to require Erev Shemesh for you to have to wait for the entire evening. That level of purification, that much we don't require. Okay. So if we're going to Rashi, Adayin Alachahi, Vatuma Mishum Shema Zavhu. It may be a Zav. As we know that Hazoy V'Harok, Metamin Lachin Ve'in Metamin Yavation. If they're moist, they're tummy. If they're dry, they're not tummy. So we don't require Erev Shemesh. So Masnisin no l'ker b'lezer. Our Mishnah is not l'ker b'lezer. That non. We learn like this: Shveiferes shechatcha l'chatos. Let's say you have a tube which was cut up l'chatos. Says Rashi, losis b'seichai afer para. In order to be able to take the ash, the earth, the afer for the paraduma. So Belezer Omer Yitbol Miyad. He says, when it comes to this kli, you should immerse it immediately. Says Rashi, Shekol Tashmishi Para Hasuin Bekli Hamakabel Tuma Tu'unin Tefila. The Koinim Erev Shemesh Yishamshu Behen L'Para Kilo Kaman. So you should be toivelet, just like all kalim for the sake of the paraduma, you need tefillah. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Yitma. Actually, you should make it tamei v'yachach yitboil, and then you should be then you could immerse it. First, he wants you to be matame, which is a little bit strange. Why would you want to make something tamei? Vavinin ba. So we asked a question on that. The chadchaman, when we said this person was fashioning this shveiferes, this tube, for the sake of the for the chatas. For the sake of the Efer Para, who's the one that was doing this? Again, the same questions. Why do you have to immerse it? It's fine. On this, he should say, make it tamei, ha-tamei v'koi. If an Amaretz was doing it, was already considered tamei. That's like we said before. It was really the chaver that cut it. So what's the problem? It's tahar. Why should you have to immerse? The nafal. Because again, we're concerned, just like when it comes to these kelim nigmarim, that maybe the spittle, the saliva of the Amaretz may have landed on it, which as it is moist, so an Am Haaretz who could be very well a Zav will be make things tamei. So when did this happen? The Nafal Amos. Before you cut it, halav manahu. Again, you haven't fashioned to a kli, so it doesn't matter. You can't make something tamei unless it's gemar malachtan until you completed the kli. So mizer zahir ba. So again, after it's finished, he'd be very careful, and it wouldn't end up becoming impure. Really, it was before. So it's not a kli. No, delma be'inna the chadcha dain lachahi. Again, maybe it remained moist as it became completed, and therefore require that you should immerse it. Now, bin shalom Rabbi Yeshua. Now we have Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says you should make it tamei and then afterwards immerse it. Hainu deika hekero tzedukin. I understand why you want to do this, because you want to show that there's something different between us and the tzedukim. What does that mean? Says Rashi. Believe shel tzedukim shoyomim b'me'arvi shemesh haisa nasis, or abundant full yoim kasherba. When it comes to the dinim of the paraduma, even someone who's a full yoim, namely that he still has to wait until the sun sets for him to be able to be completely pure, that stage we still allow him to be part of the process of the paraduma. Says Rashi, "Tenafgahum riboy dekra v'hiza hatahar alatame tar mechlal shehu tame limin al tful yoim shikasher b'para." So it's like an element of tuma there. Skipping a few lines, lamuli l'mehade l'michtav v'hiza hatar lichtay v'hiza alatame elatar koldahu. means even if he's just a little bit tar. In other words, he's partially tar. He may have gone to the mikvah, but he hasn't had Erev Shemesh yet. So that person is still allowed to immerse. So again, that makes sense that we're talking about this person, make him tameh, and then he could go to the mikvah and then immediately do so, in order to be able to go against the tzedukim, ditnan, back in the Gemara. Mitamin hayu as a kayin hasarf as a para. We actually would make the kayin who is going to burn the paraduma tameh. It was only after sunset was on to be done. So we dafka made him tameh and then had him immerse himself in the mikvah, and then even though he was already he still required Erev Shemesh, that's still fine. El Rabbi Lezer, according to the sheet of Rabbi Lezer, says just tell him immediately, if you want to say that in general, that you do need Erev Shemesh, that's how there's a difference between them and the tzedukim. Says Rashi, that ba'alma b'tfilas kelim hanigmarim b'tahara. When it comes to all vessels that are completed, you still have to immerse them. Udulok kamastisin. Says Rashi, it's not like our Mishnah. Hainu dahacha loy matzrachinin la ika hekera. Over here, where we don't require it, so then there's a heker. And then our Mishnah says that it is necessary. But maybe he's saying that no, you don't need to do it in order to be able to again show a heker. Now, alma will be in an Erev Shemesh that normally don't need Erev Shemesh. My heker tzodikim. So l'chara, it's proof that it's not like our it's not like our Mishnah. So Omer Rav, as we continue to Chav Gimel Mebez, Asua Ketame Sheretz. They make the tube the din of Tami Sheretz, says Rashi. Olam ba'alma lo boyer shemesh. Rebbe Lezer lekelim hanigmar betahara. Really, you do not need Erev Shemesh. V'fil hachi ika heker. So what's the difference? L'fish shefer shel chatos oisin keilu nogu b'sheretz. So we make it as though it touched the sheretz. So the kli is actually a rishon, and normally there's tefillah and Erev Shemesh. Inyan minyan rishain v'sheni hilchach ilav depar nasas b'tfil yoyim zu haisa sricha Erev Shemesh. So again, what we do is we make it the status of ketami sheretz. So therefore, the kli itself becomes like a rishon l'tuma. Al miyata lo tatama adam. So l'chara, they should not be able to be matama a person, because if it's a rishon, it can't be matama a person, which is a rishon. Alamatanya, why do we learn chadcha? One who cut it, umatbila to'in tefillah. Why should the one who cut it need tefillah? If we're talking about it has the din of ketame sheretz, and therefore it touches. Now it's like someone who touched the sheretz, so therefore it becomes a rishon l'tuma. So this person shouldn't be a tameh, should not become tameh. The elo also ketame mace is like the din of a ketame mace. So if it's tamei mace, which is an avi ave tuma, so this becomes an av, and then the person becomes a rishon. Yachi tiboy hazar shlish v'shvi. So if that's the case, l'chayra, if it's mamish like touching a tamei mace, then why do we say that it's only ketame sheretz? L'chayra, you should require has sprinkling on the third and seventh day, like a person who touches a mace. So too when it comes to this, all you need is when it comes to the one who cut it, umatbila, you only need tefillah. Tefillah in hazar shlishi v'shvilo. So if it's like you touch the mace, you should be tamei 3 and 7. El asui kit tamei mace b'shvi shalai. We say we make him like a tamei mace, holding on the 7th day. We keilu like it's your 7th day. Ayvasani be'oilam loy chidshu davar b'para. This sounds to be like a tremendous chiddush. So what does this mean that he's considered like a tamei mace, but he doesn't have to do days 3 and 7? He's like day 7. What do you mean he's like day 7? That's something we don't find. That's a novelty. But we have a concept that there's no chiddush by para. Amrabaya shlo amru. The reason why we say this is shlo amru. You shouldn't say kor de matami moishev, that an axe is matame moishev atoma. Says Rashi, Kloimer lo nosna toma bepara leklish in royal atoma. we do not say that when it comes to para, duma, that a kli which is not fit to become tameh. Kagoin loimer kardim sheinu meyuchad l'yeshiva. For example, let's say you have an axe which is not people don't sit on it. Ve'enu nasa avatoma, b'moishe l'zah b'para. Ava b'kli haroy l'kabel toma chidush bo lasa sheinu noiga hameis k'noiga hameis. So, when do we say that we don't make something which is a chiddush when it comes to, for example, Shuli Yomer Kardim Matami Moshev? Because normally when it comes to being Matami Moshev, it's something that is designated for sitting on, not for a person to say, Amav Nasam Lachtenu, could you get up because I need to use this for my work? So that much we're not going to do. Kadasanya, B'hayoyshev ala kli, Yochel kafas saw. You think if you turn over a basket, Yoyshev leha, Tirka Yoyshev leha, Yitami, Tamanum Hayoyshev al kli. That much we would not do. That much is a chiddush that we're not going to say. Okay, we're going to actually stop there. Let's see maybe a couple of questions. Question 7 we did already. TA 12. Kalim hanigmarim betahara. So you have a kli which was completed. So he said, Srich and Tefillah l'kadesh. You still need l'kadesh. When it comes to kadesh, you need to do tefillah. So mi gomer sekalim umadu srich and Tefillah. So who finished the kli, and why do you need to do so? So he said, l'maskana, it was a chaver v'chashin shenafel sinur dam arts kadim shegamar yach shegamar adayin l'lachahi. So again, this is TA 12. The concern is that really a chaver did it, because otherwise it wouldn't have been called nigmar b'tahara, right? So it has to be that l'oilam de gamrinhu chaver. So the issue is that the spittle of the Amaretz may have gone on it, and the issue is that even though he did it before and therefore wasn't a kli, but it remained lach. B'dilma be'idna de gamrina dain lachahi, and therefore that was the issue. TB 12, TB 11. L'mandir mesir of kli deraisa. Again, no question on that one. 2 daf in a row. Okay, Rabbi Gibber's test. Let's see. Ha'im mutarin la'avar mechatas begesher. Can you bring over a bridge? Al gam yardain? Kain. The answer is yes. Lama gazu l'kaidish al kelim hanigmarim betahara latzrich and tefillah. Maybe before the kli was finished, the saliva of the amars fell on it, and it was still moist after he finished the kli. Question 64. Lama hayu matamin as a kayin hasarif as a paraduma. To take away from the hearts of the Sadukim who say you need Erev Shemesh, then it's Tahar, so we hold you don't need Erev Shemesh, only Tefillah, then he is Tahar. Kli Matzarif Masha Masaychel Kodesh Ha'im Ze Din Deraisa Adkan.